it's one thing to, wake up in the morning and sit on your cushion or even sit up in your bed and meditate. It's another thing to be able to pause in your day, whether you're on a subway, you're standing in line at a supermarket, or you're in front of your computer and feeling overwhelmed. And, we really felt like we wanted to make meditation as easy to access as it possibly could be.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Lawrence Ampofo. On the show today, we're here with Patricia Karpas, co-founder of the 5-star app Meditation Studio and also the popular podcast Untangle. Before coming to the digital wellness space, Patricia worked for companies such as AOL and NBC, building brand and media partnerships all over the world. As CEO now of Karpas Ventures, Patricia now focuses on using digital tools to improve people's health and well-being. You should listen to this show if you want to understand how the devices in our pockets can become powerful agents for improvement of our well-being, and also how you can take meaningful steps to improving the quality of your digitized life. But first of all, welcome to the show. For over 3 years now, we've brought you the best teachers and thought leaders to help you be your best self in a digitally distracted and hyper-connected world. If you're new to the show, then the best place to find out more about us is to visit digitalmindfulness.net/start, which has a collection of some required listening podcasts where we discuss everything from becoming more focused to habit building, cyberbullying, and much, much more. Okay, enjoy the show. Hi Patricia, welcome to Digital Mindfulness. It's really fantastic that you can be with us here today, and I'm really looking forward to you sharing your knowledge and your insights with us. So welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
So Patricia, I wonder if you would just start by sharing a little bit of your story and journey to starting Meditation Studio and how you built that up into being a 5-star app on the App Store.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been in the digital space for quite a while. My background is in media. I spent several years working for companies like NBC, CNBC, AOL, Time Warner. So I came into the digital space really early on. For example, when NBC first started creating content for NBC.com, then I worked at AOL where I ran their television group, which really was creating an online experience for promoting all kinds of television shows. But I shifted from the entertainment business to health and wellness because I began to care really deeply and become very interested in people living healthier lives. And I had been practicing meditation and yoga for quite some time. And I was really starting to feel the power myself in how they both really helped me to be healthier personally. So I really, started pivoting into health and wellness by working with a lot of different companies in that space. And now I'm the co-founder of Meditation Studio, where I get to create the content and work with our talent on the app. So that's really what I'm doing now. And that's how it sort of converged the digital space with my meditation background.
It's really interesting. So a lot of other people would choose, I guess, in-person mediums to kind of reach people in terms of meditation and wellness, etc. So why did you choose mobile as the way to reach people?
Well, with Meditation Studio, I think the mobile platform is ideal because our goal is really to help people begin a practice and then sort of move them along as they continue to deepen their practice. And having this be an app makes the content really, really accessible for people. And that was one of our goals. Like when we created this and we curated teachers, over 30 teachers, and we created 250 plus meditations and 3 courses, all with different backgrounds and styles. And so we wanted to bring this like treasure trove of content to people wherever they are, because, it's one thing to, wake up in the morning and sit on your cushion or even sit up in your bed and meditate. It's another thing to be able to pause in your day, whether you're on a subway, you're standing in line at a supermarket, or you're in front of your computer and feeling overwhelmed. And, we really felt like we wanted to make meditation as easy to access as it possibly could be.
So, Patricia, given your extensive media background, and again, the health and wellness and personal development space is so huge online, why was it meditation in particular as the thing that you would focus on professionally to help people reach their health and wellness goals?
Oh, it's such a good question. I feel like meditation is one of the best tools for helping us to be more mindful and compassionate in our lives. And I feel like we're just in great, great need of this. We talk on my podcast, Untangle, we talk a lot about people being on autopilot and how we numb our feelings, and that leads to all kinds of addictive behaviors and bad habits, and even just simple bad habits like reacting too quickly to people. And, some teachers call it like this trance that we sort of walk around in. And, my goal with meditation is really to help people, focus more on what matters in life, the bigger picture, to see themselves more clearly, to have more space with how they react to people or respond maybe more thoughtfully. And I feel like it's so at the core, mindful ways, compassionate ways, so at the core of how we can truly, truly be more content in our lives and more connected with one another.
Gosh, that's fascinating. And I guess it's really interesting that it took your time working at huge companies like AOL and NBC to get that insight.
Well, I mean, I on a personal level, I've always been a bit of a seeker. I've always asked questions about life and what makes us happy and what makes us feel more grounded. And, I think I went through all my years at NBC and these bigger companies going to meditation workshops, but not really telling people that I was doing that. I almost felt like I had this, this was my closet interest. Meditation, when I started doing it, was a little more woo-woo. But I knew it was really helping me, and it was helping me to feel centered and more grounded and be able to sort of listen more effectively with people. And I see this now when I look at what's happening in our schools and with children and even, young adults in college. There's so much stress. There's so much anxiety. It's overwhelming. Our lives have become so overwhelming sometimes. And I always, sort of go back in some of these interviews with people who are working with these populations. I'm grateful that they're doing it, because I wish I had learned these tools when I was much, much younger. And I think if people could learn these tools, young people could learn these tools younger, it would help them so much as they sort of emerge into their adult lives.
I think that's a really interesting thing to say, that that just how powerful these tools can be in helping us reach our wellness and our health goals, and particularly these, the mindfulness tools, using mobiles to reach people. They really can help give people that space between the action and the reaction. And for me, this is something that I wish personally I'd learned when I was in my teens, because that would have helped me a lot. But now these tools can really reach not just adults, but younger people as well.
It's so true. I do that too. I mean, I sort of go back and look at, I was just on a silent retreat, and you think about all the things you might have done differently, but you also forgive yourself because you didn't have that information. And, but I do think I would have done certain things differently had I had this practice. So I really feel like it's sort of the grounding that we need in our lives.
Great. So let's focus now on Meditation Studio, and I'm wondering if you can just tell us a little bit more about that. Of course, you've got this array of different teachers sharing all of this content, but I'm wondering if you can tell us what makes Meditation Studio unique amongst the other meditation apps that exist on the App Store.
Yeah, I love talking about Meditation Studio because it's such a, both my business partner, Sid Kraus, and I both are so heart focused with this app. We care deeply about it and what we're trying to bring out into the world. So I already mentioned that we had 250 meditations and the courses. So we have 3 courses. One's for beginners, one is for uncovering happiness, one is focused on changing habits. And we have the 30 teachers that all have different background styles, voices. We've learned that people are really sort of particular about their meditations, and everyone comes to it with a different need. And so we like to provide this sort of diversity of offerings so that we can fulfill different needs that people have. Some people like one type of voice, some people like another. And so we learn a lot about that in our work. And we also really focus on solutions for everyday challenges. So where we have these collections that are focused on stress, anxiety, pain, sleep, happiness, confidence, performance. And then we also have like quick breaks, so 2-minute breaks. So you can be in front of your computer like we were talking about and take a productivity break for 2 minutes or a tech detox break. Or as I was saying, you can be in front of the supermarket and in a line in the supermarket, and we have a meditation called Standing in Line. Or before your public speaking, and if you're super nervous, like most of us are, we have a meditation for public speaking. We have one for having a freak out. We have one for first date. So we have a lot of classic meditations, and then we have a lot of really like sort of heartfelt personal meditations that are right for particular situations that we all go through in our lives. And so that's sort of what I love really about finding teachers that have all of these sort of nuanced meditations that I think can be really helpful. We also have specific collections for populations, like we've got kids, teens, quarter lifers, for that, like those 25-year-olds that are having their first life crisis or maybe second. And we've got meditations for moms. And then we also have 2 collections that are really part of our like almost give back in a way. We have them for first responders and for veterans. And we've brought on experts in all of those categories, but in particular for veterans and first responders to be able to help them with trauma and other types of effects that they might have on either on return from serving in the military or in everyday life as a first responder. So we really try to provide as much content as we can to really serve these particular needs and interests of people. What you asked, sorry.
First, please go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you asked what makes us different. So I wanted to also add that, we've been recognized for the quality of our app experience. Apple named us one of their top 10 apps last year, which kind of shocked us, and we were supremely delighted. And then Time Magazine recognized us as one of their top 50 apps for the year last year. And so kind of amazing that a meditation app was in those groupings, which we were really excited about overall. And then we were super proud that it was our baby. And then, yeah, right. It's really nice. And most of the apps that are out there kind of right now in our space are charging, between $60 to $100 a year. And they have subscriptions. Right now, our app is $3.99 for all of the content that we're delivering. So I think people are pretty grateful for that. And it also makes it right now a little bit more accessible to just be able to pay that one fee and have it be done, which is kind of nice.
I think that's
great
really
value.
Excellent. I think that's just excellent. And, I think this is perhaps over and above the app being on mobile, I think this whole idea of linking meditation to real life experiences, like going on a first date, like being at work and just needing 5 minutes to yourself. I think these applications make it incredibly relevant to people and would be something certainly that I would download and recommend other people to.
I love the way you just said that, linking meditations to life situations. I've never termed it that way, and that's actually a perfect way to term it, because that's really what we're trying to do. And it's funny because I do unguided or silent meditation quite a bit, but I interject these guided meditations and guided visualizations into my personal practice quite often when I need a boost. And so I might, in our happiness collection, for example, we've got a meditation called Overcoming Negative Energy. And we've got one called Break a Bad Mood. And so I'll just be like, if I'm having a day, I'll go to one of those meditations and I'll do it. And it just sort of shifts my perspective. You change your lens just a little bit, and it can be so helpful in your day. And other people appreciate that too.
I was just going to ask about feedback, because I can imagine that using it over time, you would get to know yourself a lot more. You get to know, not just that I'm feeling bad, but actually, am I just nervous because I've got a talk coming up? Or am I nervous because I've got that date coming up and I want it to go well? Identifying what the source of the stress is, and, almost like the app reflects us back to ourselves. Have you had that feedback?
Yes. I mean, we get a lot of feedback. We get it through our reviews, and we get it through our support email. And we're always getting, people are so grateful. And I think we especially hear this in our people who are getting help with sleep and with anxiety. And I think especially with anxiety, that spaciousness that they're able to feel from starting a meditation practice and focusing on sort of easing tension in their body, learning like a body scan practice, learning ways to ground themselves when they're feeling very grounded, or halting the worry, the incessant worry, being able to stay in the present moment versus looking back or worrying about something that's going to come in the future. So we do get that. And I think a lot of the feedback that we get is when people start meditating, they realize that they can be more comfortably with the range of feelings that they have. So you can be with your happiness, you can be with your sadness, your frustration, your anxiety, and it doesn't have to become you. And you probably know this too. You learn in mindfulness training that you're not your thoughts. So that one concept really helps you to be able to sort of step back and observe your thoughts with less attachment to them. And it's just like you were saying, it's like I'm feeling this now, or, I'm going on a first date. What does that feel like? And I feel a little bit nervous, but I'm not, it's not overwhelming me. So I think that spaciousness and that ability to kind of sit with your feelings has been a really great, really great feedback that we get from our customers and I think from our own practices.
So, Patricia, one of the things that you also do is that you have this fantastic podcast, which is called Untangle. And I'm wondering, in between the podcast and the app, what are some of the things, the overarching themes that you've seen that people have shared about their learnings through the meditation experience? Are there things that you can share with us that people can apply to their everyday lives?
Yeah, well, there are definitely themes. I mean, I think that, people definitely put space between their autopilot behavior and, sort of their response. So that's one that comes up quite a bit. People become better listeners, so really able to connect better with other people without feeling like they have to sort of rush into a conversation. They have better ability to maybe change habits and addictive behaviors just by often an awareness that, you get from beginning a meditation practice, but also from really like putting that space between your craving, if you will, and your actual behavior. We hear a lot about resilience, confidence and resilience. People feel more resilient because they have this kind of bigger understanding. But at the end of last year, I looked at all of the podcasts that we had done, and because I was also trying to look for what are some of the common themes. And the ones that I came up with were, we're kinder to ourselves. So like Kristen Neff, in an interview with her, and she's a pioneer in self-compassion, her big message is be kind to yourself, and being compassionate with yourself is job one. And then you can be kinder and more compassionate with others too. So that was a really important theme, and I heard that quite a bit. The other one that we've talked about a lot here is this idea of pausing before you react, and the fact that a simple pause may be the difference between an impulsive reaction and a thoughtful response, and that may save a relationship here or there along the way. We also learn that relationships can be our best teachers, so we don't need to run away from the tough ones all the time. You can sort of stay steady in that. And then I think the last big thing that comes up a lot is about forgiveness. It's forgiveness, letting go, and knowing that hanging on to old grievances can hurt you more than even the other person. And so this idea of forgiving and letting go. And then, of course, gratitude. People talk a lot about the importance of a gratitude practice every day, and really help that as a practice that helps you stay focused on really the bigger picture and on what matters most in life.
So, Patricia, who have you brought onto the show, and why those particular people?
On the podcast, we try to get a range of different people the idea of the podcast is to tell people's stories about how meditation or mindfulness practices have transformed their lives. And so I seek out experts and thought leaders and authors who have this sort of deep experience in a particular area, but I also seek out individuals who have stories. So on that level, like we've interviewed people who have gone through cancer, and they talk about how going through cancer treatment with a meditation practice has really helped them. And you hear these stories and you're sort of overwhelmed with, compassion, but also you recognize the brilliance of the meditation practice. We hear mothers talking about OCD, that the fact that their children have the OCD and they discover that they have it too, just by an introspection, mindfulness practice themselves. And the practice of mindfulness ends up helping them with how they treat their children. And so there's a lot of learnings there. But then in terms of experts, I interview a lot of like Judson Brewer, who talks about addiction and habit change and talks about the science of that. And Elisha Goldstein, who is one of our flagship meditation instructors, and he's an expert in MBSR. And just anxiety has been a big, big issue for many of our users. And so I brought on Dr. Anne Marie Albano, and she's the top, like a clinical psychologist and expert on anxiety and mood disorders. And she talked to us about that. So, David Gelles, who's David Gelles, who's a New York Times reporter, and he has a very sort of rich meditation story. He talks about mindfulness at work. And so there's a whole range of people. Some of my favorites have been Melly O'Brien, who's known as Mrs. Mindfulness from Australia. And she is just so lovely and loving. We have people talking about the negative critic in your mind, about heartbreak and resilience, about relationships. We had someone talk about how meditation helps your sex life. And then we have a lot of CEOs and people who are creating like mindful practices for like leadership, education, philanthropy. So there's quite a range of people. I try to really, sort of bring in people with all kinds of different perspectives. And I've learned, it's been such a rich experience because we learned so much from all of these people. It's really wonderful.
So thinking back now to the person from your AOL and NBC days, now that you've interviewed all of these experts and developed this fantastic app, how would you say that this whole journey, this whole process has changed you?
Yeah, it's such a good question because sometimes it's hard to find the right language to answer questions like that. Because I do feel like I'm doing something that's so highly aligned with my purpose and values. And so I think that changes you enormously to be knowing that you're doing something that is right for you at a particular stage in your life, and something that you feel like you can really, I feel like I contribute to making the world a better place, not to sound too corny, but it's, I loved my career in media. It was really fun and lots of boondoggles and lots of excitement and lots of expense accounts. So very fun and very sort of high living. But this purposeful work makes me really feel good every day, even when I'm, challenged with some of the work that we have to do because we're a small company. And so we end up doing everything. So that's complicated. The other way that it's changed me is, one of the things that I've always tried to change about myself is my impatience. I kind of move fast, and I have really been able to kind of slow down and focus much more, and to just like sort of be in life a little more mindfully. And so, but that ability to slow down, be more patient with myself and with others, be more forgiving with others has been really, I think, an important part of that sort of shift in my work as a part of my meditation practice, as a result of my meditation practice.
So what would you say then are some of the ways that listeners can incorporate the tools that you've been speaking about into their everyday lives, and particularly in a way that that they stick?
Yeah, I think the first thing is download an app like Meditation Studio, because I think that can really be helpful. I would also suggest that if you want a teacher or you want to be a part of a community, that you do some, look for teachers that are in your local areas that can also, maybe teach you mindfulness-based stress reduction or another type of meditation that resonates with you. But downloading the app is a really simple way to get started. And then you have, on an app like Meditation Studio, you have access to all these different types of meditations that we've talked about. So I think the best way to get started is to really make that commitment to meditate, even if it's just 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes every day. I think that the science has shown that that's more effective than trying to do it even once a week for an hour. But just try and incorporate that meditation or even a gratitude reflection into your day first thing, and then it's done. And then, as you go through your day, feel what you might need. If you feel yourself getting anxious or stressed, take a walk and put on your headphones and listen to a meditation while you're walking. We had someone who was writing a story about us for a newspaper article tell me she did listen to one of our meditations called Morning Practice while she was drinking her coffee. So I don't think you have to necessarily, purists should close their ears for a second, but I don't think you have to, sit in a cushion. For sure, you don't have to be cross-legged and, sitting up completely straight. I think you have to, it's best to find comfortable positions to integrate the practice into your life where it feels right for you. And I think that's what makes one stick to meditation is you begin the practice, you create the habit on a daily basis, you start very quickly, and this has been surprising to me in some cases, very quickly you see and feel results, and that encourages you to continue with the practice.
Thank you. Those are really great tips. So I guess penultimately, what would you say then, Patricia, are the most important human traits in a world that's hyper-connected? And more importantly, and I know you've kind of briefly spoken about them, but how do we cultivate those?
It's such a good question. I'd rather ask the Dalai Lama or Desmond Tutu. But when I thought about that, when you sent me that question before, I kept coming back to love, right? Love always rules in the end, if we make decisions coming from a place of love. And I think that's probably the most important human quality that even meditation cultivates. And I think it helps us to further create a culture of awareness of each other's differences, of diversity, of community, of connectedness, and that idea that we are all connected on a very, very deep level really inspires compassion. And I think these are the compassion for ourselves, compassion for one another. And I think these are the most important human qualities that we can employ in this age that we're in right now, because we just all move so fast, and there's so much technology, and there's so much pressures around work and money, and it's almost like it's a tsunami of emotional assault on ourselves and our bodies. And so I feel like if we can come back to this spaciousness that we get through meditation, and we can connect with love at its deepest level, then that will inspire us in kinder ways to be with one another.
Great. Thank you for that. So, Patricia, unfortunately, we've come to the end. Where can people find out more about you and your work and connect with you?
Yeah, well, so we are at meditationstudioapp.com, and you can get to our podcast in that way too. You can connect with us through the iTunes store or on Google Play and download the app. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm at Patricia at meditationstudioapp.com.
Fantastic. Well, Patricia, thanks. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. You're amazing, Lawrence. Thank you so much for such insightful questions.